Hey everybody, it's Christian Buckley doing another MVP Buzz Chat, and I'm talking today with Akanksha. Hello.
Hi. I was like, that was so high energy, and I'm like, oh my god, I need to wake
Well,
up.
well, now that I've got that out, we can kind of slow it down, relax a little bit, But for folks that don't know you, who are you, where are you, and what do you do?
That's a great list of questions. So my name's Akanksha. I'm going to do all the easier ones of where am I right now, which is Australia. So Melbourne specifically, the greatest city on earth. So we like to tell ourselves. It has its up and down, but just for I guess a bit of context and background. So I grew up in Ireland, which will explain the accent when people start questioning it in 10 minutes because they're really, really confused by it all because I moved here like 6-7 years ago. So it's become a weird mix of things. And depending on the person I'm talking to, it becomes even weirder. So I grew up in Ireland, Cork, which is the actual best city in the world, not to be confused by anything else.
I'll be there in a month and a half.
Oh my God, we're going to have a great conversation about that at some stage.
Yeah.
Truly the most wondrous place on earth.
Well, last name Buckley, Irish name, so it's
exactly
Scottish Irish. So
oh, I'm so excited for you. Oh, my show's back. But yeah, so look, I mean, I am a Microsoft AI MVP. I'm one of the managing principals here at Iris, which is a AI consulting firm within kind of the whole sphere of the world where everyone seems to be doing the same kind of things, but we like to do them a little bit differently, as we say. And yeah, so I do a lot of different community bits and pieces. I run Women Coders here in Australia, so really supporting all the different diverse groups across Australia to really just thrive in their careers and feel supported and not so alone. So most of the times I just do one too many things, to be honest, to keep up with my own life. But that's probably a good nutshell.
So I know that you've been an MVP for 5-6 years now. Most people aren't aware of what Microsoft was doing in the AI space over the last decade. It's really just since the Copilot announcements. And so have you always been did you start in this space as an MVP? And what was your interaction like with Microsoft, like prior to that, leading up to that?
It's so fascinating because I say this all the time. So, I mean, I've been in the space. So when I started as a data science grad back long, it's really fascinating because I've lived that life of begging customers. So I've always been in consulting for context. So it'll just be a conversation like, hey, we swear machine learning, it's really, really cool. It will do so much for you. We promise. And they're like, okay, so what's the expected outcome? We're like, well, we can't tell you that. The AI will tell us that when we get there. Like, we need to be able to go through discovery and like see what comes up. And like, well, we don't get it. We don't want it. And we're like, no, like give us like $20,000. Like we can do so much money with so much with that. Like especially like corporate terms, that's nothing. So it's just like we can like give us 3 weeks. We'll change the world. No one ever believed us. So I've lived my fair share of how I like to put it, POCs past. So I'm like haunted by a graveyard of them all most nights. But it's really interesting having lived that experience within the AI space, especially early on. So when then there was that like complete, like there was literally just like one day and it shifted. And it was the day kind of ChatGPT came out back along, I guess, 2022 now. And since then, it's the complete opposite of like, hey, we want AI. And it's the other way around where like companies are coming to me and they're like, we want AI. I'm like, great, okay, great. Let's have a conversation. What's the problem? What are you facing? Like, no, we just want AI. And we're like, okay, that's not how it works. Let's have a chat. And they're like, no, we just need to say we have AI. And that happens quite often. So it's like I've lived in completely the opposite ends of this spectrum, which is really fascinating. But early on in the days, so I did a lot of, because I was obviously, and back then AI was machine learning. Like that was the cool term at the time. So I did a lot of different pieces of work around Azure Machine Learning Studio, getting really, really comfortable and familiar with some of the Azure, back then it was called Cognitive Services, which is now AI Services. And it was just really fun being able to use and leverage that. And I think at the start, so I did a degree in financial maths and actuarial science. I did a lot of maths and stats and basis things like that. So when I started, I learned everything in terms of tech on the job, essentially. So I started and I was like, someone was like, hey, like, do you know what cloud is? And I'm like, cloud? Like, great, Azure. You've got a free thing at work. go spin up a VM, you'll understand what cloud is. And I was like, okay. So I spun up a VM. I did not understand what cloud was, did not solve anything.
Yeah.
So
And that's that dedicated cloud, the private cloud, the public cloud. Yeah.
nobody explained it. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, great. And then because we were partnered with Microsoft at the consulting I was, we had all these different softwares and stuff. So I slowly started getting across a bunch of different things. So when you start working in data, you're like, okay, data warehousing, got there, reporting and Power BI. And I'm like, okay, figured that out. How do we actually do anything with the data that we found and collated and cleaned up and stored in a place? So using and leveraging a lot of those technologies started becoming a thing. And Azure Machine Learning Studio still to the day is my favorite product. It probably forever will be, mostly just because I refuse to download any programming languages onto my laptop. Like I keep a very light machine. So I'm like, if I need something, I'm spinning up a VM in Machine Learning Studio, has all the notebooks for me. That's where I'm going.
Right. No, it's funny. This is like a longer conversation, maybe another time, another day. But like I started my career early on in the early '90s in data warehousing side of things, so like that side of it, and then get into late '90s, my own startup where we got into what we referred to as pattern recognition of technology. We didn't know
Yeah.
we were creating this thing, which would later be branded as a graph, and
Yeah.
like approach to that. Understanding the relationships of every piece of content, a line of code with documents, with like everything was connected and how it was connected and the relationships between those things. It's just it's been interesting to see kind of how those things evolve. But like you, I mean, I'm on the consulting side as well. It's not just with AI where people are suddenly saying, "Hey, I need it. I don't understand it, where it fits. I don't know what I
Yeah.
want. I don't know what success looks like at the end of this thing." That's how the cloud was. That's how a lot of the various solutions are, driven by that. But yeah, it's just the part of the technology cycle that we're on that people go and
There's always going to be a buzzword. It
right.
just happens to be this right now.
Yeah.
And there'll be a new one. I mean, Gen AI was the one we're already changing it to Copilot, and agentic is a big one now. Every single customer conversation we're having is like, we want agentic AI.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Like,
cool. It's another variation.
yeah. What does that mean to you? Tell me what you think that means to you. What are you actually looking to go and do? Well,
Let's put
yeah,
tech away. Let's talk about your business.
yeah.
Tell me
Well,
actually day.
it's I so sometimes I'm grateful for having early in my career started as was a technical writer and the business analyst. So a lot of that role was asking those kinds of questions, like what are you trying to accomplish? Like what's the goal? What does this look like at the end? When we're done, when we as the consulting body are gone, what is left?
Yeah,
What does that look like to you in your mind? And let's start from there to describe, what you're actually looking for.
yeah.
There's a whole
That'd be
process to
stressful,
that.
yeah.
It's like pulling teeth to get that out of the client sometimes to understand. But
Never ending in how we put it, but yes. I mean, and then that comes down to that is exactly where consulting thrives and why it exists in the first place. And I mean, it was a classic joke, and I've seen it all the time where it's like, oh yeah, AI will kill consulting. Why would we need consultants? And I'm like, the day a customer can explain exactly what they want and put it into a prompt is the day of my job will finish.
right. Well, that's why I tell people I do sessions, I do onboarding and training for Copilot and a lot of talk about AI with
Yeah.
them. And I say like AI is not going to take away your job. Somebody knows how to leverage the various AI tools will take your job.
Yeah. That's a great way
So
of putting it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, so tell me, as an MVP, I'm always interested to hear like, well, what kinds of like, what are your primary contribution types? Like, are you a writer, a video creator, a coder? Like, you're in GitHub, like throwing solutions out there. Like, what is kind of your primary contribution type to the community?
It's a mix of a few things, but usually is a lot of speaking. I find it easier than I cannot write for the life of me, I think, in my head anymore. Like even at work, I'm like, it's probably a 2 minute like status update question. I'm like, hey, have you got a minute? And like, I'm just gonna call you. It just takes less brain space for me. But a lot of the kind of work I do is organizing and working with community groups. So we run a whole bunch of them here in Melbourne, Australia, across the bit. I've done a lot of work with the global AI community.
Yeah.
So organizing, essentially, I think the way I look at it is an accessible format for people to actually get to know their community and meet other people within it while learning something different within that whole aspect. So a lot of the kind of content and things I put out is, okay, you've probably never heard of this thing. That's fine. Let's work our way through actually what that would look like if you had to go in and just get the bare level of it started tomorrow. This is where you go. This is what you do. This is how you get started. And once you've got there, give me a call. We'll have another chat about something else
Yeah.
and what you can actually do with it at like a enterprise or production level. Because getting started and saying, hey, I built a document intelligence thing and like I ran a PDF through, that's not going to solve anyone's problems. I can put that into ChatGPT today and that solved it. But the whole purpose of all of these enterprise solutions is that whole security aspect of it and making sure it can actually be used at scale. So a lot of the times, and I think about this all the time when I'm at conferences and listening to conferences, I at this stage have started going to conferences to meet people.
Yeah.
I'm in that constant hallway track. If you see me at a conference,
Yeah.
99% of the time I'm in a hallway track. So I'm chatting to people and yapping away left, right, and center. But it's mostly because I really value the contributors in terms of the speeches and the different sessions that they have on and stuff. But if it's a really technical one, other than like a level 100, 200, I'm going to go listen to that once I'm actually at a stage where I need to be at that level.
Right.
So if I'm not using that today, I know my brain's not going to remember it. So I will go back and listen to that when I actually am like, okay, how do I do cost management within Fabric? Because I now need to make sure I can figure that out today and set that up in resource management today. I'll go back and listen to a session that I know exists because I was there and I was like, oh yeah, I remember someone talking about this. And I can hunt that down. So I think in terms of content existing out there and stuff, that's how I see it and that's how I kind of play a role within it. And then, I mean, I've done the creators of the videos and stuff, and I've done LinkedIn learning courses, and I've tried a whole different heap of things, but I think it does come back to, for me, that is where I connect with people the most, and that is where I find probably the most joy comparatively.
Are in-person events kind of coming back down in your region down there? Like it's still like it's coming back with fire in a number of different areas, and other areas user groups are still, a lot of them struggling to kind of get those numbers. Like conferences seem to be coming back though, which is great to see for the, let's say, exact same reasons. I'm an expo hallway guy as well. It's because those interactions are fantastic. Well, I actually love something you didn't specifically say, but I'm sure you do the same thing, is when people come out of those sessions, asking them questions, like what questions do you have on that? I'm more interested in, like, I get the gist of what they're presenting on that topic, the session you attended. What questions did you have that weren't answered? Like, where are you going? What questions did you come with from your business that aren't being answered? Those kinds of discussions that happen in the hallway in the expo hall, like that's what drives me about those events.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, in general, even, and I see this all the time, even in like client meetings, for example, in consulting, right? You have a meeting, it's great, and we'll have them virtually quite a lot of the time just because it's easier for everyone involved. And yet the days I go and have a meeting in person with a client, especially like an intro one, where it's like, hey, we haven't really ever worked together. Let's tell me what you're like what you're reaching out about. And this happened to be like a week ago where I was like, it was an hour drive. I drove out. It was a 45-minute meeting, and then I drove home. Like, it took longer for me to get there and back than the actual meeting. And yet, post that meeting finishing and us all getting off the virtual call and stuff, the chat that happens in those 3 to 4 minutes of walking back out, that's so important. And that's a consulting term, but even just in community and stuff, it comes back to the whole thing of like, we're humans, we need connection. We're basic. We're very basic in that context. So when you're in and around, and I see it especially with women coders, so we put on monthly events. Like, we've been going since, it's been 8 years now of it. Every single month there's been an event. We haven't missed a single month. Every last Thursday of the month there is an event there, and it is something around the ranges of a technical workshop, like a hands-on technical workshop, or a specific topic. So this month, in next week, the week after, whenever the last Thursday falls, I can't track my life anymore. But it's going to be around, we're getting an employment lawyer in and talking about your rights at work.
Mhm.
And it's literally just, what is an unbiased discriminatory situation? How do you deal with it? Workplace harassment, what do you deal with it? What are your rights in these situations? And it's just things that we never talk about.
Yeah.
Things like, oh, how do you negotiate for better pay? And like all those topics happen, but these are the crux of things that you need to be able to talk about. And quite often what we have in our communities is we don't know who to turn to ask those questions. So when you have people who have pre-selected themselves to be like, hey, I like being around people because they're existing in this space in the first place, they've chosen to be there. So they like talking to other people. They're not going to be there any other reason.
Right.
You can go and have those conversations and that form of connection. And it extends further than just the tech. I mean, it's great and all that we can have people who are experts in a specific thing, and it might help you out with your day job, but your day job is only going to last so long without you thriving in it when everything else isn't working.
Right. Well, that's why I experienced in the late 90s, I think, where I went to so in the San Francisco Bay Area, there was a collection of user groups that put together through this larger organization. It was actually formed in the late 60s, early 70s. It was still around and, paid for this organization by a bunch of, the big name venture capitalists and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, but they supported these different technology and entrepreneurial based user groups, but they started these birds of a feather groups around various topics that got together on a regular basis for the same thing. It's like you go and you find these groups, these people that around a topic or a set of topics, but where you can sit and have more in-depth questions. If you're listening on a webinar that's on a topic, there's no real opportunities to go sideways on something. Whereas if you're sitting there in the room, again, more often it's the conversation that happens over the cheap pizza after the event. The people that have dropped off the line and the people that are sitting there in the room in a hybrid event are having conversations about other stuff that's of equal or greater value than the topic that was discussed in the official presentation.
Yeah. And I mean, a couple of years ago got burnt out, which as you'd expect, if you work in consulting and you don't take a break, that's what happens. Because COVID hit and I was like, we don't need to take a holiday. We're good. We're not good. And I remember so distinctly, so I think I remember quitting in about November, December of the year. Still exhausted come March, and I was starting to finally, I was like, right, okay, I've got space that has opened up. I can go back and do my meetups and my groups. Like I was like going back into community because I just hadn't had the time because I was so burnt out. And I remember going back and every event I went to, every single person I caught up with, and I was like, hey, we haven't had a chat in a while. Like, let's have a coffee. Every single one of those. And I'd come back with like, oh my God, that sparked an idea. That sparked a thing. That sparked a thing. That conversation went somewhere. And it wasn't even like they were doing much. It'd be like us chatting away and it'd be like, wait, what about this thing though? And this could be this, and then we could turn this in. And I'm like, every single conversation did that. And then I just refused to go back to full-time work for a couple of years because then every one of those things just kept going into a new thing for me. And I was like, I'm going to try this, and now I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try this. And it was really fascinating, and it just really reminded me. And it was kind of a real validation piece, I guess, more than anything else, of like, yeah, no, community works. There's a reason it exists, and there's a reason it will continue, and it will thrive, and it's coming back to in person completely. Not many in Australia I've seen are still anywhere doing hybrid. Some we do just because of context and things, and it's important to do that. But usually it's we'll record the sessions and we'll put them up after if you really wanted to see the content. But yeah.
I see very few true hybrid where they're attempting to serve both audiences. Like everything's going back to in person, and you're right, and recording for the people that registered that were there. But that's more for the people who attended in person to catch up on sessions that they weren't able to attend while they're there. The reality of that. No, it's you also just made me think of something else too, is like, I am so grateful for, it's one of the main things that I use, as we were talking before the recording started, of other tools of capturing meetings and notes and things around that. I absolutely love, like when I have, like, I'm a list guy.
Yep.
I've got like all this stuff that I'm, trying to do, like today, this week, minute of the week, just reminders around that. I'm constantly using AI to go in to refactor that list. Okay, add these 3 things. Okay, I completed that one, refactor the list.
Yeah.
Where I can't hold that, the order, the priority, the number of items, all of the conversations from each of those discussions, I'm constantly using, and I use Copilot to do some of that. And I have the common problem that we all have is that the work related stuff that's all in Copilot that was captured by that, then the other stuff that's part of my life that was not captured by Copilot. And I've got
Yeah.
other tools that are out there, but refactoring that, sorting that, prioritizing that, like I've not worked it out perfectly yet, which is why I have the written list still, but it's a heck of a lot better than it was a couple years back without these AI tools to keep order of that.
We just wouldn't be doing as much. Like I'll be so honest about it. Like the amount of time I can have an X number of meetings a week because my time is freed up from having to write up notes after it.
Yeah.
And it's such a basic fact, but I'm quite often there's days where I'm in 9 to 5 back-to-back calls.
Oh, yeah.
And there might be a 15, 20 minute, like little snippets of breaks and stuff. I don't do any work in those. My brain can't. I would like, even if I tried, like the context switch to get into something then is just not worth it because 10 minutes later I'm going to get pulled out of it.
Yep.
I was like, I'll just leave it all. It'll happen. The day will happen. And then at the end of the day, it'll be like a 9, 10 p.m. And I'm like, right, no one's going to call me. No one's going to message me. No one's going to talk to me for 20 minutes. And I'm going to sit down now. And it's interesting because like I could have spent individually like 3 hours throughout the day grabbing wherever time I could, trying to get all this done. 20 minutes I've smashed out the whole thing because everything's there, everything's pulled together, everything, all the notes. And I'm like, this.
Yep.
And when you look at it that way, and when people kind of have those conversations around where is the productivity rise, all this, what is actually doing, it's freeing up brain space.
Yeah.
And not great that a lot of us are just replacing that brain space with more and more work. It's the classic thing of use that capacity for something that brings you joy, to be honest.
Right. Well, that's what weekends are for. It's like there's still work over the weekends, but you choose which ones you want to work on. You usually. No, but one of the things that I absolutely love that I use all the time is it's not even like the list of reminding me to do all the things and organizing from all the meetings. It's almost like an audit of did I miss anything? And so typically I'll go back and say, look at all my chats, look at all the conversations, all the meetings that I was in, all the emails that I received, and what was assigned to me, what should I have done? And I'll go through the list and be like, done it, captured. I know that. Like, oh, I completely forgot about that item. It's not every time, but once in a while I'll catch something like there's value right there in making sure that I didn't slip and miss something.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't know where there's still so much room. I know that with all the automation that needs to be done, and there's still a lot of opportunity for solutions and integrations. And I mean, the biggest difficulty now is that there's the cross model activity, there's personal and work related things to be able to go, and I've not even gone in to understand fully what it means, but the ability to use, if I have a licensed Copilot, to be able to go use that on other across profiles, like if I'm paying for it one place to use it in another place. I don't know what the constraints are. I've not looked into it other than read the article that, hey, it's a thing now. It's like, cool. I need to understand what actually, is that just the marketing for it, or how does it actually work and not work? But, move in that direction.
It's the classic thing. And I've been working with a bunch of people in terms of getting them up to speed in agents and agentic AI solutions and things like that over the last couple of days. And the consistent question I get is, okay, so how does the agent know RBAC? Like if I have very specific things I'm allowed to see, and if I ask the agent to find me something else I'm not allowed to see, will it find it for me? I'm like, no, it understands RBAC actually. It's really cool. But then the question is really fascinating when it becomes a thing of, and I see this become more and more of an issue in a couple of months. I would have said years before, but it's probably going to be months. But you might have an agent for yourself running your personal life, which doesn't need to communicate with your work version of it to have like a level of, okay, this is what works and this is what doesn't work. And then the work one has to be very specific of like, you can't know these things because this is protected. How do we navigate all the essentially RBAC? It's going to be so interesting, I think, over the next little bit, because the more you start seeing it and the more you become ingrained with it, it's cool that it can do that, but does it functionally work and actually make use of it? That'll be the fascinating thing, because are you making, and how do you communicate that to people? That, hey, you've asked a question and this agent is showing you answers, but you don't have the full story because you don't have access to the whole thing.
Right.
How do you communicate that? How do you make sure people know about this?
Here's a great example that I wanted to solve is, as MVPs, we have access to a lot of not yet ready for the world information, content. And I don't know how many times you've caught yourself. I've done this many times where I go back and like, you know what? Before I even attempt to start to answer this or write something or blog about something, I have to go check. Can I even talk about this? Is this, how much of this is public? Is it, is like all those kinds of questions. It can be confusing at times, to find the line, because you sit on an MVP call and it's an NDA call, and there are slides that are saying, do not share this publicly. And you're like, wait a second, that was announced at Ignite last fall. Why are you saying this is restricted? What have you added? Have you modified something? Is there something new on that? Like, no, they were being lazy and pulled old slides together for their presentation on this call. So it's really confusing. So to have AI to be able to recognize some of those nuances, that context will be fascinating.
I mean, or even just in general, when people ask me questions, I'm like, and then I sit in a spiral like that where I'm like, let me come back to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, or it's let me come back to you, or it's like, I'd recommend MS Learn.
Yeah.
Like, have a sauce if it's there.
I used to, working for product companies, I said, I strongly recommend you investigate this path.
Yeah.
They're like, well, what? It's good. You mean this, whatever? Like, I'm just saying that is I think has a strong future down this direction. And then talking with the VP, now the president of SharePoint, the collaborative apps. And he's just like, Christian, aren't you talking to your product team and telling them what's coming up? I was like, no, we were told specifically never, like even internally. And he's just like, no, we're like, there's some flexibility there. But anyway, that's a different discussion about MVPs.
We'd be here all day.
but again, it'll be interesting to separate between, private, business, and personal.
Yeah.
So like MVP, work stuff, personal, and see if it's ever able to separate, differentiate.
Yeah. And I think it'll be fascinating. And I mean, a lot of the customer conversations we're having and seeing, I mean, I get Australia is probably like about a year behind comparatively, just in general, in terms of uptake and things like that. But the change that we're now seeing is really fascinating, because it's almost okay, this is definitely happening. How do we make the most of it? Rather than let us show you how we could. There's an acceptance in the market, which is really, really different, and a change. And it's a good kind of an acceptance now, where they almost understand the limitations, or they're asking about the limitations.
Yeah.
We do a lot of those kind of sessions here in Melbourne in terms of executive education. So we actually go and have those conversations of like, this is the reality of what exists and what's doable. This is where you sit in the progress. And like, let's have a chat now about what is your North Star, right? Like where do you actually want to get to, and what is the process to get there? Let's map that whole journey out, and then figure out what you need to do to get to that end point. So that's the kind of work we're now working through and doing quite a lot of, alongside the classic, the usual, like, hey, we have a problem, we need a fix now, and this is what the fix needs to be. Great, we come and do that. But those are the kind of journey mappings and stuff that are becoming really, really interesting. And I think over the next couple of years, we'll see so many kind of really, really interesting use cases coming in the space because of that, like because of the difference in that education piece. Because up until now, it's like, yeah, AI, we need AI, and that's all we need, and that's what works. It's that, okay, the nuanced understanding of AI and where it falls into place, and then what do we actually do with it, and how can we make that really customized to our business problems, And being around it in that space and working through that at the moment, so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It's a cool space. Now there's a lot going on. Like as we were saying at the start of this, every day there's something being announced. There's articles, there's things, there's just new things, new developments from the various players that are out there. It's just fascinating. It's a lot. I mean, I think most of my Microsoft ecosystem career, one of the most common questions I would hear is like, how do you keep up with everything? And I don't know how to answer that anymore for this space. Certainly, it's
a level of acceptance that you can't.
Right.
I mean, I still remember being genuinely like the Pikachu shook face of reaction when they told me the model catalog on Foundry had over 1,000 models. I still remember that day, and I still remember being shocked. And then literally like a couple of weeks ago, someone was like, oh yeah, it's like over 2,000. Like in my head, I was like, over 2,000 now. They're like, it's over 11,000 models that you can choose from in the catalog. And this whole thing has happened this year.
Yeah.
Like me being shook was, I'm pretty sure, in March.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting curve of that acceptance piece of like, okay, there is going to be constantly things. There's going to be things you're going to miss. There's probably a better solution than the one you're using.
Yeah.
You just kind of have to get to a level of acceptance of this is where I've chosen and I'm going to stand on this.
Yeah.
You got to stick to your path at some stage. And that's fine. And like a lot of the times we're having those conversations, and especially when we're having those customer conversations, it's quite often, okay, you've made a decision. We can work around it. There's changes we can help you make. That's fine. But if you've already made a decision, we're not going to uproot the whole thing and be like, let's go again and again. And how many iterations can you really make?
Yeah. Well, you have to be making some decisions. You've got to be moving forward to be able to learn from that and grow from there. So it's, I mean, to sit and wait for the perfect solution or the one that's like those don't exist.
You'll be waiting your life. And I think it's one of those things now where it's like that, and like we basically just gotten to a stage where we just build things to be changeable, like editable almost in a way, where it's like you can switch in and out of your model. You can switch your model around whenever you want. The rest of it stands, and this is the level of work you need to do to be able to change that. And we try and minimize it as much as we can, essentially. So when we build it, it's that actual design consideration now. How are you managing and building for the fact that there is going to be constant change in the environment, not the level of like, here's .NET 0.5 or whatever. I don't really do software engineering, but I've heard enough of it to be like, here's a new framework that's come out and we will maybe do a complete operational shift in 3 years on this. No, that's just not life anymore.
No. It's it's more output focused. Like, what are you trying to accomplish and to get done? It's like you do that. Look, in a year's time, there's going to be a faster, better way of doing it, but you got a year of value out of that last build. And then we'll just look at what makes sense to update versus re-architecture and do something entirely new. But again, if you do nothing, you're not learning. You're not.
Time will still move.
It will be a bigger leap to you take more time. So, yeah. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time. It was great getting to know you. Are you coming over for the MVP Summit next year?
I'm not sure on the summit yet. I was there this year. This is my first one, which is very fun. But I will be there for Ignite next month.
Okay. I won't be there for that one, but I used to be every time.
Around, so I was like, don't know how that has to come around, but that'll be real fun. It'll be an exciting little experience. But so I'll be around there. And usually, in fairness, it's one of those things where getting to America is it's a bit of a trek.
Well, I'm sad you can't join us at ESPC in first week in December in Dublin.
The amount of times I've thought about it, and I'm like, I've been to Europe already this year, and I'm like, the thought of doing it again is nauseating. Like I was like, the thought of doing a second US trip is already killing me. So I'm like, I'm good.
It's a bit of an effort to get down to your part of the world down there, but
it's not great, but it's really fun when we get here.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it was great meeting you.
Thank you so much. I will see you all around.